You're listening to the Keyword Crypto Podcast with Michael and JJ. This show is entirely donation supported. Check the description below for how you can help. Follow us at Keyword Crypto on Twitter and check out our website, www.keyword-crypto.com. Tell your friends, engage with us, let us know who we should have on the show next. And with that, enjoy the show. You are listening to Keyword Crypto with Michael and JJ. We are crypto fans and crypto skeptics, and we ask a lot of questions about a lot of things. Our guest today, returning to the show, is Noah Smith. Noah Smith is a badass economist from Bloomberg. He's got degrees from University of Michigan and Stanford University.
Go Blue.
Speaks fluent Japanese, loves his pet rabbits, and he's got over 150,000 of the smartest followers on Twitter. Follow him at NoApinion. Noah, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. I just came back from watching the presidential debates. It was pretty fun.
The presidential debates. We're already jumping to president, huh?
No, I mean the primary debate.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it was the second day, and I just there's so many candidates that all you can do is really just crack jokes. So I cracked jokes.
I tried to watch the first one yesterday, and it was pretty painful.
Yeah.
Just how short.
Yeah, but this one had Marianne Williamson.
Was it good?
Marianne Williamson said that she was going to solve all of our problems with love.
God.
Actually, that's probably going to make some pretty nice memes.
Oh my God, yes. I just imagine this giant heart-shaped machine that blasts rainbows out across America into the hearts of all the kids.
I just want to run for president, and every time I say something stupid, just turn to the camera and say, "You're welcome, Twitter."
Something like that.
And that would be my tagline.
Oh God.
Or purposely say stuff like this is really mean or insulting to people, and be like, turn to any camera and be like, "You're welcome, Twitter."
All right.
I feel like Beto actually does that a little bit already. I mean,
yeah.
Damn it! Everyone's stealing my ideas.
In the interest of not letting this become one of those podcasts where people discuss random stuff for 12 minutes before getting to the point.
Okay.
I love that Noah's coming on and regulating. He's like, no. Wow. This is how we're going to do it tonight, okay? I know you guys like to do your shitty fucking spiel.
Wait, is this one of those podcasts? I didn't realize.
It is.
Oops.
All right,
okay.
then we're fine.
We just edit all this stuff out anyway, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I listened to this military affairs podcast, and they just spend all this time talking about the books they were reading, and not about whatever they were supposed to talk about.
Why did you listen to it? What's the point?
Well, I was bored and I was cleaning my house, and that's the thing that was on.
You see, people who are into crypto, they don't really have anything to do except to watch the price go up. So,
yes.
Right now, listening to our voice is actually very calming for them.
Yeah,
that's
especially
awesome.
JJ's, because he's very NPR.
I'm very NPR, guys. Welcome to the show. That's my NPR voice.
So Noah, we wanted to bring Noah on because of the Facebook coin Libra, and it's funny because about 2 weeks before Libra got announced and the details of it were announced, I actually was DMing Noah and being like, "Hey, I got this idea for a stable coin. It's the top 20 to 50 highest GDP countries in the world, taking their currency. That way, if one falters, it doesn't affect the stability of it." And then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Facebook drops their Libra, and that's what it is a basket of coins. And I just thought it was funny. And then after thinking about it, I just started coming up with all these problems with it. And so I'm kind of glad I didn't throw it out into the world. So what do you think, Noah? We'd love to get your opinion on that.
Well, all right. So Libra is, I believe, a stable coin backed by a basket of currencies, right?
Yes.
So, you don't actually need crypto to do that at all. Because
you have money.
I mean, you could buy a crap ton of currencies and then just sort of, issue bonds backed by those currencies, or just issue notes or issue your own currency of any kind, without crypto. And the difference would be that instead of whatever crypto system you have keeping track of transactions, you just have some guy with an Excel spreadsheet, or, of course, an automated Excel spreadsheet.
So
Yeah.
okay, so does that mean that you believe that the whole reason that what do you believe the reasons are for creating Zuckbucks or whatever?
Well,
we're gonna
hold on.
call
Let,
them?
let him finish. Let him
Okay,
finish.
yeah,
Let
go
him
ahead.
finish.
I'm just like,
I mean, like, no, that's a good question. Like, you can do that. Like, any bank can do this. Any, TD Ameritrade can do this. Anyone can really do this as long as you have a bunch of money. You can buy a bunch of currencies. I mean, central banks have reserves. Central banks can do this if they want. And the question is, well, why don't they? And would crypto make it better? So I think that the reason why they don't is a big question that nobody really understands, because so we have this thing called the reserve currency, which is dollars, right? People say dollars are the reserve currency. That means that every central bank out there in the world is holding a crap ton of dollars. Not necessarily a crap ton, but it depends on the country. Like China holds a lot, Japan holds a lot, like maybe a few countries hold only a little, but everybody holds these dollar reserves. And this has some distortionary effects on our economy. And so we've tried to get people to, sort of like back off and maybe not use only dollars for their reserves, maybe use euros as well, or, a basket of world currencies, yen, whatever. You could use anything. And people don't want to. People want to hold dollars. And it's not entirely clear why they do, but they could be doing exactly what Facebook is doing and basically just use units that correspond to a basket of currencies backed up by a whole bunch of currency reserves that they buy. In fact, countries don't only buy dollar reserves, like China buys some euros and stuff like that. So anyone could do this, but they don't. Instead, they just use dollars. And when countries like Venezuela fall into this sort of, hyperinflationary disaster where local currency basically becomes worthless, everyone on the black market is trying to use dollars to trade. So the Facebook thing, Libra, could change this, because it could be that people start trading in Libra instead of trading in dollars. And if Libra is basically backed by this basket of international currencies, then it could be something, a very sort of stable payment system to use in countries like Venezuela, where the government has decided to screw up the local currency. And so you need something else. Currently, people try to do it in dollars. With Libra, they try to do it, in Libra. So that's the idea basically behind it. Give these people in these failing systems sort of a lifeline, something that they can trade that is sort of going to have stable prices. So you avoid hyperinflation in these countries. So that's the idea.
So
Yeah.
then the question I have is, okay, so you have a basket of coins, and it's based on these stable currencies, relatively stable. But what happens
Right.
if Zuckbucks becomes the new international norm? All those currencies that it's based on are just going to like completely collapse because no one's using it anymore outside of the government. So
Well, here's the thing.
if no one's holding it anymore, doesn't the stability of that currency just kind of become
Wait, I
meaningless?
mean, Zuckbucks itself is pegged to a basket of currencies. So if people abandon those currencies, then that will, then that will make Zuckbucks suck as well.
Well, so like, let's say you did 20 currencies, and one of them was Netherlands, and I guess you're right. Yeah.
Netherlands uses the
I mean,
euro.
well, they use the euro, but yeah. So, like,
Yeah, that's
let's
true.
say that it's South Korean won or something like that. The
Yeah.
question is, what if everyone in South Korea started paying for their, dokboki in Zuckbucks instead? Actually, they should have called the currency dokboki. But anyway, suppose they just start paying in Libra instead of in won. I mean, they could do that, but like, there's not a heck of a lot of reason to do that.
Unless it's easier.
In terms of, yeah. So like, I mean, so if you want a currency, if you want to use a currency that has a very stable value for payments, its value internationally, is pretty stable. But in terms of local prices, it's not going to be really any different than won, right? It's like you're going to have fairly low exchange rate risk holding on to Libra, because suddenly the value of all these currencies could plunge against whatever the or against the yuan, whatever. You could switch to Libra and have everybody in South Korea just using Libra.
Wouldn't that kind of collapse the Zuck buck a little bit then?
I
Wouldn't that
mean,
collapse
probably
Libra
not.
in a
No.
sense? Like I guess the point is, I think my question was like if the world melted down more or less and all the governments collapsed and all currencies collapsed, then Libra would be pegged to all those collapsed currencies. And it's like the
Sure.
spiraling effect versus
So
when
that's
when
different
Noah
than
and I were
Bitcoin, right?
chatting back and forth, Noah in the DMs, Noah said, "Well, why don't you do it against a commodity? Because
Right.
economies collapse and monetary units collapse, but commodities never collapse." And I was like, "Oh yeah,
Well,
because
they
that way it's not
do. I mean,
reliant
they
on
do.
I think they do, yeah. But
Sure, they do.
like
But
food, grain. I mean,
right.
like if you do it like to the top 50, the chances of all the top 50 commodities that people survive off of, like grain and rice and whatever, the chances
okay,
of
Well,
everything
I mean, it could
collapsing seems
that could
slimmer.
collapse. The reason I thought about the pegging to a real commodity was different. But then, so the question is, first of all, what is so Facebook could try to persuade everyone in Korea to start using Zuckbucks, using Libra, restaurants accepting it, businesses accepting Libra and payment, everyone getting their wages in Libra, basically switching from a yuan-based system to a Libra-based system. Now, the question is why? So why would people switch? One thing is you still have to pay your taxes to the South Korean government in yuan. So you're still going to need some yuan. I guess you could set up an automated sort of transfer system where you just automatically convert all your Libra to yuan the day you need to pay taxes.
can't you pay your taxes in Arizona with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I mean, well,
it could change.
Yeah, you could. So South Korea wants to allow Facebook to do this. There's no reason why they can't. In fact, we used to have something just like this in America. We allowed banks to create their own private currencies that people would then use to pay for things. Like the dollar was not always like, the American, fiat currency. Like it used to be that independent banks just made their own currencies and then you would use those.
When was that? What are we talking?
Like the 17 and 1800s?
Like,
right?
1800s, early
Okay.
1800s.
So that was back when that was back when there
back
was
in the day.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that
Right,
made
so
sense.
you
And
just
those were like promissory notes basically or something like
Yeah.
that.
And that was a complete disaster, though, and that's why we came up with a federal currency, right?
Well, it wasn't a complete disaster. It was a partial disaster. It had its problems.
This is a reason why we don't use that system anymore.
I mean, lots of theft.
There is a reason.
Lots of.
But if you had a company that's essentially bigger and more stable and more trustworthy than governments, there's no reason you couldn't have that company provide monetary services to the people of any country.
Quote unquote trustworthy.
Like trustworthy.
Right. So here's an interesting thing. The whole idea of Bitcoin was that you had this distributed ecosystem that produced automatic trust. And I think there were problems with that. There were ways that Bitcoin turned out not to be as trustworthy as people hoped. The exchanges could still get hacked and stuff like that. You hypothetically could have all these, cartels that could gang up and like attack Bitcoin, or you could also have people decide to like fork it in some way. So it turned out that there actually were all these points where like humans were involved, and you still had to trust humans. It wasn't just this completely purely immaculate automated system. And I think that with Facebook, if people trust Facebook enough to use their cryptocurrency, it really doesn't matter whether it's a cryptocurrency at all. And I think that's really just from marketing. I mean, Facebook could just have like, a little program in Python that says, okay, you have this many Zuckbucks and you have that many Zuckbucks. And if you got cheated, then you could appeal to Facebook, like the bank. Facebook is a bank, right? With our normal fiat money, the way we do payment systems is if you get cheated, you say, hey, bank, I got cheated. Give me my money back. You could do that with Facebook. There's no, or not if Facebook's policy didn't allow that. So in other words, there's no reason for Facebook to do this as a crypto other than, to maybe regulatory reasons.
So wait,
but there's no computational reason. Like any information you can send over a network, you can say like, I have this many Zuckbucks. You can say that through the crypto system, or you could just say that through like, HTTP or something.
Well, what about censorship resistance? What if they're worried about getting regulated by, I don't know. I guess that
They'll shut down Facebook.
They'll shut down Facebook, but what if Facebook doesn't have control of the currency anymore because it's crypto?
Okay, okay, so the question is by what, is it like a Bitcoin type system that you use to do it? Like, can countries shut down Bitcoin?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, have we determined whether Libra is a crypto actually or not? I mean, or are they just using crypto as a buzzword to get people interested in it?
I mean, it sounds like they're just using crypto as a buzzword.
I mean, do we even know
it's going to be even remotely decentralized?
Why are we even talking about it as a crypto and not like a version of PayPal or Venmo or something like that?
Because they have it on a blockchain, and so that's like the buzzword. And
okay,
and each of their $10 million partners are going to run one of the nodes. And
is that what you think, Noah? Is it just they're just trying to create buzz?
So yeah, I think they're trying to create buzz. Yep. I mean, Libra is a permissioned system, right? You have trusted entities that can make entries in the ledger. It's a bank, right?
Yeah.
It's not like people say, oh, it uses blockchain technology, but as Kai Stinchcomb famously wrote, blockchain is basically just a system of small files and a system of rules for who gets to write the files. And so once you make a different system of rules that say that these trusted people that Mark Zuckerberg likes are the ones who are able to write to these files, then your blockchain is actually just a system of small files, a series of small files. Is that any sort of technology? No.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's a mystery to anybody who actually is interested in crypto and what it is. I think we can safely say that.
I mean, it's encrypted. The transfers are encrypted from wallets.
Oh, I guess if something is encrypted, does that mean it's crypto? So now we got to define what crypto actually is, because
exactly
if it's blockchain, it's not necessarily crypto. If it's encrypted, it's not necessarily crypto. For me, I think something that is actually crypto would be it's encrypted in it's encrypted in a permissionless way in a way that's censorship resistant. Because in my opinion, that's the only reason to have a blockchain, really, is to protect a database using censorship resistance by spreading it out, by decentralizing it, distributing it. I mean, am I crazy for thinking that's the only reason?
No, not at all.
No,
I mean, it just seems like it seems like
I feel like people make a lot of reasons why Bitcoin or crypto is valuable, and to me, it's like, no, it's just because the only reason it's really valuable is that somebody can't say stop, basically.
Right. So here's the question.
Or they can, but
imagine if Facebook, instead of Zuckbucks, were to just do something, just do dollars, right? I mean, we have a currency that's pegged to the dollar. It's called dollars. And Facebook has many of these dollars already. So the basket of currencies is fancy, but really not that fancy, because any bank can do this at any time. They just don't. But say Facebook were just to use dollars as Zuckbucks instead. Why not? Allow people Facebook, go be a bank, right? Be a trusted intermediary that people use to make transactions in dollars, and let anyone in the world bank through their Facebook account. Or some like app linked to Facebook that has like better encryption, right? Like or like WhatsApp has encryption, right? I mean, like, let people bank through WhatsApp.
But they just want to be a more international currency.
Fine. The basket of currencies is it's kind of neat, but the point is that like it doesn't really make Facebook into a country. Like, I feel like Facebook kind of wants to be a country, and that
I think they do.
It's sort of they've bought this hype about like, look, Facebook users outnumber like any country in the world, and they're like,
the first
wow.
digital country.
They're the first
So
digital
that'd
country
be
in it.
interesting.
It feels like
they're
a country that's a
arguably.
place where people interact.
I mean, they've got to be way more powerful than any government, really, in
Really?
terms of the information that they
No,
have, what they can access. I mean, it sounds like an
maybe.
episode of Black Mirror or something, but like,
I mean, the
I mean,
CIA can just go shoot all the executives of Facebook if it wants.
Yeah, I mean they don't.
unless Facebook has their own CIA that we don't know about, I don't know.
Right. If
I mean, they
Facebook
probably
decides
do,
to
but
have like private security forces,
Then they're a country. Yeah.
right. So let's talk about sovereignty.
All right.
This segues into this other topic we want to talk about.
Get
Yeah,
off
so-
my lawn.
Right. So sovereignty, right? It's basically you have a monopoly on the use of violence, right? And it all comes down to that. It's like suppose that you say that you must accept this currency for loans or for payments or something, and people don't. You can see it, and then you send guys to go shoot them, or put them in jail, or slap them with a wet herring or something like that. You know, like whatever the punishment is. You have a
Guys with
monopoly,
guns.
right?
Guys with guns.
Right. And unless they have like John Wick or something and can just like shoot all your guys,
Yeah.
or like that Finnish guy. You remember in World War II, there was this one like random untrained Finnish sniper that held off like entire Russian divisions.
Yeah,
And
well,
he
they
was-
might have those. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Or they can
it's
just immediately
was-
blackmail the entire army on social media forever.
right. It's like. I mean, maybe Instagram could do this. It's been like, oh, you know, we have all your nude pics. We're going to release the nude pics of all your soldiers and their teenage kids. And
Oh,
people are like,
Ooh.
shit. I mean, like
they've
Facebook, maybe
got
they
us.
could do that. That's what I was thinking. That's what I thought Snapchat was like back, in the day when Snapchat was just starting and I was a more paranoid person than I am now. I thought like Snapchat, this is a blackmail business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never.
There's-
Really,
yeah.
I mean, and that's why
Snapchat
it's
is
and it's creepy that they target it to kids.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. I actually, I mean, as a teacher of kids that use Snapchat, I can see the value in having, an app that actually deletes your photos. It actually saves you from being too embarrassing in your life in a way.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think
If they
But-
actually do
screen
delete
grab.
photos. If they
If
actually
they
do
do-
delete photos. Yeah.
I mean,
if they do.
anyone can screen grab your photo.
Yeah,
Like,
Of course, yes.
and I mean, obviously everyone does.
But
Um,
I think it's actually designed to attract kids in. I mean, well, who knows why, but
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I no longer believe that
Hopefully for good
Snapchat is a blackmail operation. But that's the first thing I thought of, which shows you how paranoid I am.
we
Or
have your
was.
teenage nude photos from 10 years ago.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the
Give
first
us-
thing
I mean-
I thought. Like literally the first person who explained it to me, I was like, "Why don't you just take a screen grab?" And they just stared at me. They're like, "Oh yeah."
But it's Snapchat.
And I'm like,
But it goes
did
away.
nobody think of this that started using it?
Yeah.
No, so, I think people just were so
Yeah.
excited to like jump onto the next new thing and get their handle before they have to be like
Right.
Joe Schmo 7165231. You know,
Yeah.
that they just
And all
jump
those
onto it
people
and
are
start
like-
using it.
I
can-
want to make that my handle. That's a cool.
Dibs.
All right. So the thing is, you have sovereignty, right? Sovereignty means you could just kick ass. And of course, as military technology changes, that changes. Right now we have information ops and information warfare and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, probably like most people don't care nearly as much about having their nude photos like broadcast to the internet as being like shot in the face. So you send some guys with guns, you're going to win. Or maybe some automated drones or whatever you've got, right? Missiles.
I just feel like we're not that. I don't think we're that far away from a future where we need to be concerned with that as a possibility, like of
Oh, yeah.
of a future where these Silicon Valley companies actually have as much power and control as a government.
right.
I mean,
Have you ever read my old article that I wrote for Quartz? It was one of the first, sort of paid media articles that I ever wrote. It was about the age of drones, how drone warfare combined with rampant automation could completely change like human society in a fairly bad way and bring us neo-feudalism. So,
let me guess, it actually happened. Not yet.
I mean, it could,
In
right?
certain,
Like,
certain parts of the world.
right. So basically, the idea is that like you have robot lords with these like robots that just do all the mining and manufacturing for them, and it's just like them who command the robots, and then like everyone else outside is just sort of like destitute and starving, but they can't attack the robot lords because the robots will just shoot them.
Yeah, I mean that's the future that we're all terrified of, as portrayed in the Terminator.
It could happen. I
we
mean, the Terminator.
would have to send somebody back in time to.
You really are paranoid. No, I just imagine you sitting there petting your bunny, scared.
I know. The bunnies. I'm not. The bunnies are scared for me. I'm excited about the crazy cyberpunk future. We have gotten so many of the things that the cyberpunk authors predicted. It's like if William Gibson, Bruce Sterling, and Neil Stephenson and whoever had like sat around and brainstormed like all the shit they could think of, we got about 80% of that. Like,
good.
Yeah,
all the stuff that I read about.
We're already at the point where we can kind of just think of things and they appear in our lives, on our screens, and on our doorsteps. I feel like
magic is returning to the world.
In the form of Snapchat, yes.
In the form of Snapchat.
In the form of bunny ears and dog.
Have you in
like the fantasy books? Like no one's trying to get people to send them nude pics in the fantasy books.
that
like,
should be more.
Of like, you know, like Aragorn's got like this palantir. He has like this crystal ball. He can see shit. He's like, well, you know, hey, elf girlfriend, I forgot her name. Like, send me some nudes. Like, he just doesn't do it.
Either of you watch Dollhouse?
No.
What's Dollhouse?
Back in the day, it was I'm blanking on his name. He did Firefly.
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon, yeah. So it was the thing where it was the technology where somebody could port your, in essence, brain into somebody else's body,
your personality,
and they would just answer your phone, and all of a sudden you'd wake up in someone else's body, and that was how they attacked.
Oh.
That was how China attacked America.
We should be careful, otherwise we're just going to start going through Black Mirror episodes and talking about which ones have come true.
Let's talk about.
That's not what the show's about.
I have a question for you guys. All right, you guys know more about crypto than I do. I have a question. Suppose I'm a government and I decide I don't want people using Bitcoin in my country. Can I stop people from using Bitcoin?
No, you can't.
Why not?
You can stop people from wanting to use Bitcoin, but you can't actually stop people from using it.
You can stop people from using it for governmental purchases.
Can you? Is it possible to detect when people are using Bitcoin?
Yes, but
yeah.
Like, how do I do that? How do I detect? Suppose I just have like, you know, I can get all the data from your IP provider, ISP. I mean,
so what you're asking is two questions. One is, can the government stop you from using Bitcoin? And the answer is yes. But the answer is also no. I mean,
can the government? No, you know what? This question is isomorphic to another question, which is, can the government tell when you're using Bitcoin?
No, I mean,
Bitcoin is not completely. Like, is Bitcoin completely anonymous? Like,
it's not anonymous.
They would need very, very sophisticated and very, 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 very sophisticated computers to do that automatically.
I see.
It's possible to track money on the blockchain because everything is public, but it does take a while to do that, and you pretty much have to do it. You have to do it. You don't have to. I think there's a way that you can do it automatically, but most of the time it's done manually now.
Can you tell?
It's done in very vigilante ways at this point.
Right. But governments, you know, they're more organized. Like, can they?
Are they?
Can they tell the ISP?
I think they can, but then of course there's all kinds of ways to mask that too. So
okay. Right. So you can use a VPN.
Yes.
And then you can, if you absolutely have to, you can use something like Tor.
And then you could just transfer it to Monero and start paying people with Monero.
What is Monero?
And then all of a sudden, Monero is a completely private cryptocurrency.
It's a completely anonymous cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Okay, so people use Monero, and it's completely impossible for me as a government to tell when people are using Monero from their houses.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. Why not? Like, is it just really good at disguising the type of internet traffic? Because I mean, they can tell when like if I were to like steal a movie online, they can tell that. They can monitor the traffic and tell that I was doing.
Well, I think we should probably stop talking about the technology behind Monero because we don't really understand it well enough.
Okay.
But from what we understand, it cannot be traced. So yes, and there are a few other cryptocurrencies like Zcash and Grin and Mimblewimble and stuff like that, which are completely private.
Got it. All right. So Bitcoin's public, but these are private, and so
Not
basically,
private,
there's no way to
anonymous.
know that people are
They're anonymous.
right, anonymous.
Yeah.
There's no way to know there's no way to track who's using it and punish people for using it. You can look and see, oh, there's a bunch of traffic related to this thing coming from our country, but we don't know exactly where it's coming from or who's using it for what.
Not even sure if you can tell what country it's coming from, but I could be wrong about that.
All right. So you can't tell.
We need to get Fluffy Pony on the show.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it's not a public blockchain, so you can't just go on there and read all the transactions. Right.
I don't think it's a private. Well, we're stepping in territory we don't understand. So
right. Okay.
But here's the thing. Eventually, yes, governments are gonna be able to figure it out because governments always figure out ways to spy on their people.
Right. I mean, although that could be only like the highest capacity governments like China or Russia that figure it out. It could be that like random governments don't.
There's other ways to spy on you and find out if you're using something illegal, of course.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I mean, it would be much easier for them to plant a camera in your apartment or house and watch you make a transaction with Monero than it would be probably to
that's
right now.
All right, but here's the thing though. When you're making a transaction, what are you getting? Like if I live in Venezuela, what do I want? I want my rent, I want food, I want like necessities, like toothbrushes and toothpaste and all the other things they don't give migrant kids at the border. That was a dark joke.
Yeah. Soap. That's so sad.
Yeah, soap. Anyway, medicine. All right, so I want all these things, and how do I get them? God, stop! All right, I really should have brought that up. Jesus.
Death spiral.
So, yeah, sorry. Right. So, all right, so I want all these things, and I want to get them. The government can monitor the people who have these things. And they can make sure that they post prices in local currency, or else you get arrested and sent to jail. And so then they can make sure that they have they can plant a camera in the store and watch to make sure that people are buying with this, and then you can try to evade the camera. You can try to pretend that you're paying in local currency and then sneakily pay with Bitcoin or Monero or whatever, and you can do that, and it becomes this game of cat and mouse.
So you're saying monitor the goods and services that people would buy.
Right, because the physical goods and, local services, you can actually monitor that stuff.
Yeah, but you already do that by
washing machines. You know where they go.
Yeah, I mean, you already do that right now. You could just the IRS can just audit you and be like, hey, you accepted 17 dishwashers and you only sold 14 of them. Where are the other 3? Oh,
that's right.
They just disappeared because you sold it with Monero, but
exactly. And of course, if you have a government in a state of collapse, they won't have the capacity to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think that in these extreme cases, people aren't. I don't know if people are actually using crypto to transact regularly, even though they probably need to. They're probably more thinking, where can I put my money so it doesn't turn into garbage?
Exactly.
And where will it be safer than in my country's fiat?
Right.
And they think, and I think people, of course I don't know, but I'm assuming people are thinking, where can I wait out the storm?
Exactly.
Which just kind of exacerbates the problem if
everybody does that.
If everybody goes into Bitcoin.
But that's called capital flight, and that's one of the reasons these collapses happen in the first place. I mean, so one of the reasons you get a hyperinflationary collapse in the first place is because people all move their money out of the country. It's a self-reinforcing thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying people. It's not the root of it is the government's fault, but I'm saying what triggers it is people moving their money out of the country.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not their fault. They're being rational. They're being sensible. It's the government's fault for I don't know, printing too much money or having the central bank directly fund government borrowing or something like that. That's what the the MMT people kind of sort of want us to do in America.
Can you explain
All
the
this
MMT?
stupid stuff.
Because I think
No. Okay, I'll explain MMT. MMT basically, MMT says the following: if you have sovereignty, which is if you can print your own currency and force people to use it, you never have to default on your debt, because you can just always have the central bank print more money to finance government borrowing and government spending. So the government wants to pay a bunch of people to dig a ditch or make a hellish prison or whatever the government wants you to do. And so you do it, and then the government pays you with money, and you have to take the money, and because that's the only way to pay your taxes and basic and stuff like that. So essentially, and the treasury just creates the money and gives it to the government. So MMT basically says you can do all that and you'll never default. You can just borrow infinite money and have the Fed, finance it, or the central bank, whatever, and you can do that forever. And there's really no limit to that.
And by finance, you mean just
Jesus.
printing more.
Printing more, right?
For
The Fed prints money. It gives it to the government in exchange for bonds that it then, I don't know, disperses or burns or whatever. Then the government takes the money and pays it to workers to work. And then basically dragoons eventually the entire labor force into government labor, which might or might not be useful for anything, and probably will cause China Mao level collapse.
Yeah, I was like, how is that any different than China?
Yeah,
it's dumb. It's really dumb. It's bad.
I can see why you became an economist. These are some pretty interesting problems that people do not think about in the world.
And I hear a bunch of liberals talking about MMT policy, and it's just like, what? Why would you think that's even remotely? I don't know. It's the same people who think going back to the gold standard is a good thing. It's just how do you people not get hit by a car every day?
Come on.
But to be honest, gold bugism and sort of hard moneyism and MMT are sort of opposite sides of the same coin. MMT just says, essentially print all the money. You can, magic. That's why they call it magic money tree, MMT.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then gold bugs are money must be a store of value. You should only be able to pay for bread with something that's gonna appreciate over the centuries.
Yeah.
So what? That no.
My big complaint with Bitcoin, everybody knows this at this point, is that it's deflationary instead of inflationary. But we've never really
we actually
talked
have a
about,
few problems with Bitcoin.
We've never really talked about what deflationary is, in the sense of what happens.
It means it goes up in price.
No. What happens when your country is in a state of deflation? So I was wondering if you could, because Japan, it happened to Japan at one point in my lifetime, and I was wondering if you could get into the dangers of when your economy actually goes into a deflationary state.
So the times your economy actually goes into a deflationary state is when you're in a depression. Like the Great Depression, we had deflation.
People start storing their money, right?
People start storing their money, and then prices drop, and then people get scared of that and start storing their money more, and then it just compounds itself. So you have this deflationary spiral. That's a theory anyway. And we did have deflation in the Depression. I think we had deflation for a hot second in the Great Recession in 2009 or something like that. So let me actually check that.
And so ultimately,
but anyway,
what that happens is people don't want to buy anything because prices keep falling. And why would I buy it today when it could be $10 cheaper tomorrow? And so no one starts buying.
Which is why people think
technically
inflation actually makes people spend their money, because you want to. It's a hot potato.
Yes.
Right. You want to get rid of this.
That we discussed last time on the show. So check out the previous episode with Noah Smith if you want to hear our take on that.
So, so the danger is you have the spiraling effect. Yeah, the spiraling effect of, and I think I get so frustrated when all these small business owners say they want to go back to the gold standard, which can lead to a state of deflation. And I'm like, all you're doing is advocating for your business to die. in a sense, because if you go into a state of deflationary, when you're in a deflationary
It's
state,
not good. It's not
people
good.
aren't buying anything. And if you're a small business
Well,
owner,
we
you're literally
did
just
have
shooting yourself
deflation.
in the foot. Like small business owners want an inflationary system because it means people are buying more stuff.
In general, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are people who are very greedy.
No, they're not
I think
greedy. They're
that's
dumb.
They're dumb and greedy. I mean, thinking
Yeah.
I want money that goes up in value. That's my dream
Yeah,
world.
not realizing
it's
that
dumb, but
no
it's,
one would shop at their business anymore, or like, it would destroy their business.
or it's like it's Ponzi. It's Ponzi
Yeah.
syndrome or something like that.
We did have deflation,
which-
by the way. In 2009, we had a 0.3% rate of deflation.
That's crazy.
Ah,
Rate
okay.
of deflation,
And in
or we
2015,
actually
we-
went negative.
We went negative. The
crazy.
dollar gained in value against real stuff.
Wow, that's crazy.
So
It can happen, folks. You gotta hodl your dollars.
So
sometimes,
even with the
I
Fed
guess.
printing money like crazy,
yes,
the U.S. dollar gained in value. So anybody who thinks that
correct.
that the Fed printing money leads to inflation, we have direct evidence. 2009, that isn't always going to happen. That's not true.
Right.
Okay.
I just think it's crazy that people like what's his name Pompliano, that the podcast Bitcoin podcast guy. These people who are like, these are the big champions of Bitcoin that say like, oh, you never want to own something that is going to go down in value, and it's like, oh my God, come on, like that's their main talking point is that. It's like they never. Well, this is also a guy who eats McDonald's every day too, I think so.
Oh, that
he?
guy.
Is it-
No, I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you want something that's going to
He
go up
says
in
his
value,
favorite. He says his favorite restaurant is
God.
McDonald's. That's what he said. So
Pump.
you know, I found out that their fries are really good because they put sugar in them. Anyway,
More to the point,
yeah,
if you want if you want an asset to park your money in that's going to go up over time, don't do
you can do Fred Gold if you want, but like probably stocks and real estate are going to give you a better bet.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't
like
know about-
something
sure.
valuable.
I mean,
not during a recession
it's
though.
the thing. Not during a recession, and also there's barriers to entry.
Yeah,
on
and also
those
our
types
housing
of
market is
things.
completely
Yeah.
propped up, just for the sole purpose that that's where the majority of our wealth is. So the government has a vested interest
Sure.
in keeping it propped up, because if they let it collapse,
Well, that's a great reason to invest in it, isn't it?
Well, I guess, but eventually,
Maybe, unless Zuckbucks takes over.
Keep
Unless
getting
Zuckbucks.
propped up forever, as China's showing us, as Japan showed us in the '80s. You can't prop up a failing society forever. Eventually, it's going to crash, and that's why everyone was like, "Aren't you worried about China?" And I'm like, "No, because China's building ghost cities, and they don't have the ability to keep that going forever. Just like Japan went out and bought, every single property they could in Manhattan and California and all over the place. And eventually they overextended themselves. It collapsed and they went into a massive, massive recession that lasted like 10 years. So I feel like China's on the
To be
verge of
honest,
that. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it was fairly bad. I mean, it wasn't as bad as people think though in Japan. Like if you look at, from the date of the collapse through now, basically Japan's collapse just sort of diametrically canceled out its super awesome outperformance in the 80s. So like the 90s canceled out the 80s, and then since like the turn of the century, Japan's been growing just as fast as any other rich country.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying
So,
they didn't
like they
pull
didn't
out
have
of
like
it,
this eternal collapse.
But I mean, the entire 90s.
I mean, of course, their demographics are collapsing. So
Yeah. I mean, so
nobody had any kids. That was the problem.
yeah. So like it does affect
That's
an
why
entire
the country's
generation,
economy is shrinking.
right? An entire decade of people.
It does, yeah. Yep. They had a lost decade.
And that's we're already starting to see the cracks in China right now with these cities that people are just buying all these apartments in these cities that nobody lives in. And so what's the value of that property now? You've just sunk, your entire fortune into
they don't even rent them out.
There's nobody to rent them to. The entire city's empty. And everybody's buying these properties.
I mean, nobody rents anything out in China.
I mean,
like renting is just not like a thing you do.
is literally a Ponzi scheme.
They had that.
China ran a Ponzi scheme on their
Yeah.
own citizens by building these cities and then selling the houses to these people that nobody would live in.
But didn't Italy do the same thing too? But they tried to do it with like ancient ruins or something. Like basically, they were like they tried to get people to rent or buy some housing that had been ruined that was like decades or centuries old, and now I mean it was a Ponzi.
Italy's
basically.
in a bad state. They're actually reaching out to people all over the world and trying to go to these empty towns that barely anybody lives in again. It says, "Hey, we'll sell you this house for $100 if you promise to invest,
right?
a few $1,000s and actually move here."
They're coming for American millennials and saying like, "Hey, you want to live in the hills of Milan? You can buy this town, and you can be the king of it."
All you got to do is deal with the
Fortunately,
Italian
millennials-
version of Trump.
Millennials will never do that. Millennials will just like stay home where they can yell at people on Twitter and like, send each other nudes on Snapchat.
Oh, you pretend to know what millennials want.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what millennials want.
They want to be CEOs.
So who? I mean, come on.
Right.
I know. I'm hoping you saw this thing about Stephen Moore wanting to create his own decentralized Fed. Did you see this?
That is Stephen Moore is a lifelong grifter. He's just
Who is Stephen Moore?
He's the guy that was up for Fed
fake
chairman.
economist. He's a fake economist.
Trump wanted to put him up for Fed, like what? Not Fed chairman. On
just Fed board.
Fed board.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a faux economist.
He's a faux economist. I'm not really an economist, by the way. I'm just I'm a former economist who's a columnist. But like,
yeah, you're an opinion dude.
Yes,
now.
I'm an opinion dude. But if I were to go around saying like I understand, like if I were to go around, like, saying like put me in positions of like authority and have me make economic policy, then I wouldn't deserve that. And
no, but you're still taking on you're still considering and taking on big problems. I mean, last time you were on the show, you were saying you wanted to write a book on immigration.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. That's something that an
You're
economist would do.
Okay, but I mean, like if Stephen Moore wrote a book on immigration, that'd be fine. Stephen Moore. Well, another problem is that I actually try my best to really figure out what's going on, while Stephen Moore just like says a bunch of blather that he thinks Republicans are going to want to hear in order to extract money from them, which he can then use for like, whatever.
Well, aren't you a neoliberal shill, Noah?
I was a neoliberal shill for 1 year because some goofy people on Twitter elected me neoliberal shill in a rigged series of Twitter polls. However, this year
just kidding.
I was defeated by Matt Iglesias for the title of neoliberal shill,
Nice.
51-49.
Oh, you had to pass it on. You
So
had to
get
pass
this.
the torch.
I was defeated.
So Moore jumped in on Fox Business today or yesterday and during the interview, and his final line was, I'm really excited about doing this. I hope it makes me rich."
I mean,
out.
he's like such an old grifter that he's just like letting it all hang out.
It's
now.
Fox. Nobody cares. You can say anything on Fox. You could like murder a little
They'll all
baby
laugh
on
and
Fox.
be like,
and people are
he's-
like, it's okay. As long as you're conservative. As long as you vote red. It's like it's
Right. Anyway, so that's not going to work, and he's not going to do anything useful, and people aren't going to give him any money, I hope, and he's not going to get rich.
I don't know, man.
If people give Stephen Moore their money, they deserve what happens next.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I hope a lot of conservatives give him money and they lose it all, but at the same time that means that he has a bunch of money. And that's
Right.
never a good thing.
So here's the question.
How do we solve that economic problem?
Right. So here's to bring it back. I don't know about Zuckbucks. I don't know if that's going to do a thing. It could just be Facebook dipping their toes into financial services and becoming a bank. Because like if you've got access to a whole ton of people and you're thinking, where do we go from here? We've basically sold all these ads and we're getting yelled at by our, we were thinking like, maybe we could have better ad targeting by mining people's data, but actually everyone yells at us for that. And we're thinking like, how can we actually do things that people want? Well, you've got a kabillion consumers, billions literally of consumers plugged into your platform. A lot of them need financial services, and so you just sell. You have all these captive users. Financial services are a very high margin thing in general. Start selling all these captive users financial services and make like gazillions of dollars. So I think that the crypto thing could just be because it gets press and tech people like it, and it allows them to sound like they're a tech company doing engineering things instead of just saying we are FaceBank, but like FaceBank is really
Wait,
where to go.
do tech people actually like crypto
Love it.
buzzwords?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
Tech
Really?
people like
tech
making
people
money just
love
like
it
everybody
because, like,
else.
it gives you.
oh no, tech people like making money more than most people.
So of course
actually,
they like
Well, they like
crypto.
making
They
money,
work
and
crypto.
they like making money by working on like math problems. Like we'll work on some math problems and we'll extract money from that. That is cool. I mean, it's the same motivation that motivates people to go work for quant hedge funds, right? It's like, I'm going to
I
do
would
some
just
math
think-
and money comes out.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would just think that a lot of tech companies would look at something like crypto and be like, "Wow, that's a shit show. Let's wait till that blows over."
No, they're
a
like,
bit,"
that's a
you know?
shit show.
Like,
Let's get in and making money and then get out because before it collapses.
Well, Google's not
All
getting
right.
it. I was going to say, who could,
Google is getting in it.
is Google getting crypto?
no.
I don't know. There's all kinds of rumors. What's the Chainlink rumor now? Is that they
Rumor.
partnered with some sort of
Oh
Google
yeah, I mean
thing,
Google's
or-
going to use
I don't
them
know.
as, or maybe not necessarily even them, but they use them as an example of a way to, do something. No, I don't think they're getting into it. I think they're just going to start working with companies that are
No.
in it.
I feel like Amazon is really the best positioned because Amazon already has all the goods. It's the store, right? And
Yeah.
if you're
And
the
their
store,
Amazon Web Services, yeah.
if you're the store, you might as well also be the bank that lends people stuff to buy stuff from the store.
Yeah, but
And the
Jeff
bank that
Bezos already
handles
knows.
the payments.
Yeah, but Jeff Bezos knows that Amazon's going to collapse. He's even said so. Like he.
Wait, why?
No, but
Really?
Oh
that's
yeah, he said this company's not going to be around
Why?
in 10 years because he knows it's unsustainable.
Why?
and it's a monopoly.
Because the people working for
Because
him are
antitrust?
slaves, and eventually they're going to rise up against their overlord and just stop working there, and his entire company's going to collapse. I mean, it's
Oh, but they make all their money off web services anyway, like Amazon Web Services.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's more likely is that AWS is going to become quite a.
I mean, it's pretty
Behemoth,
telling when
but,
when
like-
the CEO of your company and founder says this company's probably not going to be around in another 10 years.
Did he really say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also smart, and he might say that
Bullshitting.
just to say that.
Yeah, right.
Who knows? And like the thing is I don't know. I think I feel like when eBay got really big in like 2002, I felt like they partnered with PayPal or PayPal. They bought PayPal or something like
Yeah.
that. Is that
He just
something
says-
I made up?
Yeah, no, I'm reading this now, and you know what? He's just trying to motivate people to like work harder and not get complacent. Like, does he really think Amazon will die? Who knows? He doesn't know. Nobody knows. But Amazon is a giant. I mean, Walmart is fine.
Maybe.
Like, who says like,
how's
oh,
that
Walmart's
possible?
going to die because it doesn't pay its employees much and its stores look like crap?
I think that
No,
I think that
it's not
model's
gonna die.
unsustainable.
Walmart's fine.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between
Yeah, but
dying and
wait
going.
How
till
long has it been
robots-
around? There was Walmart when I was a little kid, and there's Walmart today.
Yeah, but it's getting progressively worse, and I think eventually something like that. I mean,
Is
how is Kmart not really around anymore? Right? Kmart was around when I was a kid, and it's
Because Walmart ate them.
yeah, but so
Walmart
something's
beat 'em.
gonna something's
And then
gonna,
eventually, Amazon will eat Walmart for
Mm.
sure. So then
Could
Amazon will still be around until there's no more people who will work at Amazon, and it's all robots, and it becomes a monopoly, and it gets broken up by a government, and
like
that means people
that's how
with guns.
everything. That's how everything
Bottom
fails
line.
or goes bankrupt.
Bottom line, it's poor people, rich people, and people with guns. Usually the rich people.
Society is a very complex thing and very, sort of abrupt and weird things can happen and violent things and whatever. And
So
it's very hard
in the
to predict.
meantime, yeah.
But in the meantime, if I were Amazon, I'd go for financial services. I would be Amazon Bank because that you're expanding horizontally, you're expanding vertically, so that the antitrust people aren't necessarily going to come after you. You get a lot less hate for controlling 20% of everything than for controlling 100% of one thing. And so Amazon already has so much like payments going through it and blah, 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 and could do so much lending that I don't actually know why Amazon hasn't done this yet. Like, there's no reason to have Citibank when you could just have Amazon integrated with a bank. Why doesn't Amazon just, become a bank as well as it's a store? And
Well, because
whatever.
like
Probably
lots
thinking
of
about it.
government
And they could do the
oversight.
crypto
happening.
They're either
too.
doing that, yeah.
Lots of government
Amazon
oversight.
could be a better Libra because like with Facebook, you can't actually use Libra to buy many things unless they bring back Farmville, like Facebook doesn't have any goods, and it's not really a force in commerce, and it sort of tried to be and failed, I think. But then Amazon, like all around the world, Amazon could be a lot more of a country. Like Facebook is a chat room where people hang out and post their stuff. Amazon is a real store that sells you all the real things you need to live, and like has all this material goods. Like if you think of a country as like a chat room, that's one thing, but maybe a country is actually just a store.
Amazon is way more useful to me than
Serious?
Facebook is.
Way more. I'd absolutely give up
Oh yeah.
Facebook before I give up Amazon. I give up Facebook just for fun.
I gave up
'cause I can
Amazon
find
2
some
years
others.
ago. I use it maybe like twice a year.
I have
Well-
I have an entire business that runs on Amazon, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's huge, and I
Oh yeah.
it's either they go after financial services or they go after guns. And like, those are two
Financial
options
services
for them.
is highly regulated by the U.S. government, and right now they've been able to kind of fly under the radar for the
So are
most part.
guns. Well, guns are
They've been
guns are
able to
less
fly under the
regulated.
radar for the most part with their dehumanizing their employees and all that. And it took 5 years for the stories to finally come out, and still that didn't stop them from continuing to do it. And it didn't really have the government really didn't step in. But when people are dealing with money,
Excuse me.
that's when the government kind of has to step in. When people are losing their money or having their money stolen, or when you're doing shady
Government
stuff with
protects the
money.
rich people.
Exactly.
Government protects capital. It's all about capital.
Well, that's when you take Amazon and you position yourself as something that if it gets regulated or shut down, then people freak out
Right.
and people hate it or something like
What's
that. where
interesting
you
is
get
that we-
people so addicted to same day shipping or
Yeah,
whatever.
people
Right.
have tried that. It almost never works long term.
All right.
Hmm.
So, all right. So the thing is, if anyone was positioned to do an international currency, it would be someone who ships a ton of goods to people internationally. So Amazon, I think, would be better positioned than Facebook. But yet, that said, Facebook might succeed. It's just that nobody has ever really had success creating, sort of a private currency with, backed by artificial or backed by a basket of world currencies before. No one's ever really tried that. Probably big international banks could have tried that, and they never did. So Facebook will try it, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, when I first heard of Facebook Coin or Global Coin or Libra, my first thought was I never buy anything on Facebook. So like, what's the point of that? I mean, that was my first thought. So it does kind of make more sense for a company like Amazon to do the financial services. Well,
Right.
it was great to get your input on all that, Noah.
Thanks.
I think that like there's a lot of confusion right now in the crypto community about what Libra is trying to do and what they're actually going to do, and are they crypto or are they not? How is it going to affect other economies? How is it going to affect Bitcoin? That's what most people are concerned with. I think in most of the chat groups and on Twitter and stuff like that, I see people worried about the value of their crypto going down because of Facebook Coin. And I personally think it's not going to have any effect at all, but
Right. I mean, like,
see.
what you can store your money in a international basket of currencies, but I could do that without. I don't need Facebook to do that. I could go do that on TD Ameritrade.
Yeah.
All I have to do is go buy a bunch of currencies. I can buy yen. I can buy, whatever. Can't buy. Yeah. I can buy euros. I can buy all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can buy it. I can hold it in an account.
And it's getting easier for people
Yeah.
to figure out how to do that. I feel like 10 years ago, people
Do you
would be
even
like,
need
I don't know
TD
how to do
Ameritrade?
that.
Can't you just
And
do it like
now-
on Robinhood or something like that? Or
Yeah, I can do it on
Abra?
Robinhood.
Hey,
It's like-
Absolutely.
so yeah, I mean,
yeah, wow. All you need is a
Yeah.
smartphone.
Right.
Crazy.
I can buy all those currencies if I want to hold them, right? If I want to actually pay with things that each represents like a basket of currencies, that's really cumbersome to do. And I can't do it because, like Amazon now accepts dollars, right? Like ultimately Amazon gets to decide what currency I use. Like
I'm surprised we haven't been.
I
Is that-
need litter for my rabbits that I buy on Amazon. I need hay. the hay that I like, that my rabbits like, is only sold on Amazon. Amazon decides what currency I use, and if Amazon decides it's going to accept Libra, I will pay Amazon in Libra.
That's crazy.
Wow.
If Amazon
That's
wants
crazy.
to, it decides it's only going to accept, Monero or whatever, I will get that.
So you hear this,
because
Jeff
I need that
Bezos?
hay.
Get into cryptocurrency.
Oh
Noah
man,
Smith will
take
support
over the
you.
world a little more, Bezos. That's exactly what we need. Emperor Bezos.
Build another mountaintop statue of yourself somewhere. Doesn't he do that? Does he build a clock? He built a clock in the wall, in the mountain wall.
No one has yet created like the future where it's just like Bezos versus Musk, like battling with robot armies over the husk of a dead Earth.
Yep,
Good
that's
times.
Black Mirror episode season 7.
They'll need more budget. Yeah. All right. Well, it was fun. Bullshitting about science fiction and like global catastrophe is fun. So
Yes.
anytime.
All
right.
All right. So be sure to check out Noah on Twitter at NoOpinion. And I guess that's a good show.
See you guys later.
Right.
Thanks for listening. Once again, check out the description for how you can support the show so we can keep making episodes. Follow us on Twitter at keywordcrypto, and our website is www.keyword-crypto.com. Hit us up, ask us about our Discord, and let us know who we should interview next. With that, have a good evening.